Howdy mates, how are we doing today? Here's the second video I wanted to make for today. Alright, so I want to focus this video on the Ohio Buckeye, also known as the Aesculus glabra. So, you may be thinking when you're looking at the leaves, it's, I assure you, it's not what you think it is. Some of you may understand what exactly I am talking about, but for those of you who don't, ignorance might be bliss. But that may not be the case either. But you know what I mean. Yeah, so they're a great example of an understory tree. So that means they're kind of like in between the first floor of a forest and the third floor of a forest, which makes up the larger trees and the canopy. So the understory is kind of like right in the middle, the second floor, more or less. So the Ohio Buckeye really doesn't grow too tall. I mean, usually they'll only be about 40 or even 30 feet tall, and that's really about it. But what's fascinating about the Ohio Buckeye is it is the official state tree of Ohio, and the Buckeye is a common symbol for the state as well. And usually it gets its name from the fact that the Buckeye itself looks similar to a buck's eye. However, though, the Buckeye itself, you do not want to eat them. They are indeed poisonous. So definitely veer away from those. However, though, any of the wildlife around here can eat them. That's just simply because they have a different metabolism that can handle certain compounds that are within the Buckeye. But yeah, usually like with their buds, they're quite large in size. And as we progress into spring a bit further, you'll really start to see buds getting this tall. But it's still a little early too. So probably give it another couple of weeks or so. And that's when you begin seeing them. And what's fascinating too is, so you figure they're one of the first to bud during the spring. And that means usually when it approaches the fall, they'll be one of the first to lose its foliage as well. However, though, there can be an issue that happens. If the leaves don't fully open up like they're supposed to, they can actually be subject to getting discoloration, usually in the form of yellow. Like you'll see yellow on the actual leaves once they're further developed. And part of that could be due to nutrient availability, such as that of nitrogen too. But yeah, the Buckeye really enjoy to have well-drained soils. And as you can see, we kind of are on a bit of a slope too. So really, the water does have a chance to drain out because as you can see, just up here a little bit, you kind of see like a little V-shaped valley. That's basically an area where water can drain from. Oh yeah, and I wanted to mention one last thing. So you figure you have the Ohio Buckeye, right? But there also is another one called the yellow Buckeye as well. I don't think you can see them in this area in particular, but here's a little trick that you can use actually to identify between looking at an Ohio Buckeye or a yellow Buckeye. So here we go. Let's do this. All right. So you go along, okay, let's say you go along this twig right here. So what you can do, as a matter of fact, you can actually scrape on the twig itself. All right. And then what you can do is smell your fingers. after rubbing on the twig. In this case, it kind of has a bit of a foul smelling odor. Kind of reminds you something of like bug spray, for instance. Kind of has that type of smell on it. That's the best way I can describe it. But unlike with the yellow buckeye, on the other hand, it does not emit an odor at all. Now, in terms of why exactly the Ohio Buckeye produces this odor, could just be a defense mechanism, perhaps, to veer off any wildlife that try to feed on it. Maybe. Not quite too sure on that part. That's a hypothesis on my part. But yeah, that's an excellent way if you want to tell the difference between an Ohio and a yellow buckeye, because there are two different types. So that's all I really have on the fellow buckeye right here. Soon enough, give it another couple of months and you'll start to see those little buckeyes themselves. Oh, it's awesome. And they have like these outer coverings that remind you of looking at, let's think of it, like a spiky ball, for instance. Yeah, it's just the outer covering for it so that they're not accessed so easily. So, all right. We learned something with fellow Brutus here, as a matter of fact, and I hope all of you get to enjoy your Saturday. All right. And the Ariana journey is outwards. Take care, folks.